Okay, hello everyone. I hope you can hear me clear and well. My name is Patrick. I'm one of the founders of the Masumi network, and I'm also founder of a company called NMaker, which has been in the blockchain space for quite a while. And I'm very, very happy to welcome all of you here for this, little Masumi Network launch live stream event. This is a quite, nice event because we have some exciting news to share, and I'm very excited to walk you through that in a moment. But before we do that, let me quickly jump to a different screen and let's take a look at the agenda for today. So, we have a lot of stuff to cover today. We are going basically all the way from what Masumi actually is. What is it that we have actually built here in the first presentation with Sebastian, to how do we onboard customers to Masumi? What is our partnership strategy? What is really the outreach strategy together with Christian? And then I'll be talking a lot about the technical stuff of Masumi. So I'll give you really like a deep dive into what Masumi actually is and how you can actually use it. And since this is not only a launch event for us, it's not only about the Masumi network now finally being available to the world, it's also about kicking off the Masumi Hackathon, the first Masumi online hackathon, actually. So I'm going to be mentioning that quite a bit because I'm quite excited for it. And I hope that many developers and also just interested people sign up for this launch event and build their own AI agents and deploy them on Masumi. But I don't want to be jumping too much ahead. You'll see what it's all about in just a few moments. But yeah, it's very exciting. So I think without further ado, I hope that the voice is very nice. I'm gonna take a look at the chat, loud and clear. That's perfect. Very, very helpful. Thank you so much. And then without further ado, I'm gonna give it to Sebastian and basically let him present the vision and the mission of Masumi.
All right. Welcome to the Masumi live event today. So my name is Sebastian. I'm the founder of the Masumi network. I'm the Chief Transformation Officer at Planet Group, which belongs to Service Plan, which is Europe's largest independent advertising agency. And I have the great pleasure to build together with NMaker, Patrick, Christian, and the entire team, the entire Zumi ecosystem. So this session is intended to give you an overview of what we are building here, why we are building it, what are the use cases for it, what will be the features, and you will get a pretty sneak peek into everything we are doing today. So our mission truly is to unlock the agentic economy, because we are actually heading into one. And let me explain what this means. So about over a year ago, Bill Gates already made this quote, right? And when I read it the first time, I was like, there's no fucking way this is true, right? I was like, really? The agents will upend the software industry? I couldn't imagine over a year ago, although I was already into it and I was already exploring basically all the different opportunities we have. But by now, we all know that he's not only right, but probably the impacts of what is happening right now in the agentic AI space are even bigger than this. Because we are heading into a world where service as a software becomes possible. So when you are around for longer, you probably have basically witnessed the rise of software as a service, right? This was in the early 2000s, basically, that everything moved into the cloud. Cloud software became the most common thing to do. Everything is suddenly possible in the browser. By now, right, it feels so normal. It's nothing different anymore. But between 2000 and 2010, this was a really big deal. And now, by just exchanging two words, we are in a completely different situation. Now, we are at a point where services which have been traditionally delivered and been done by humans can be done by agents. And this is so mind-blowing because the market this is addressing is so tremendously big. This is a great pie diagram from Sequoia Capital. We use it here for our purposes. If you look at these three different pies, the first pie is the entire size of the software market in 2010. It feels like the day before yesterday. It's not long ago. And in 2010, the entire software market was at 350 billion US dollars. And the share of cloud software back then was still quite small. And over the last 14 years, this has nearly doubled, right? So the entire software industry is right now at 650 billion. And the share of cloud computing obviously exploded, right? You can see it here. 400 out of 650 billion are now what you would call software as a service. And this is a tremendous growth. And basically everything which is on your laptop, everything which is on your smartphone, all these great companies who achieved basically billion or trillion dollar valuations sit basically in this bubble. And what is now happening, why everyone is so excited about the future of the agentic economy, is that if we can deliver services with agents, the market is so much bigger, right? Suddenly we talk about a $10 trillion opportunity. And this is massive. And the amount of basically AI software within this massive pie is still so small. But everyone, I think the entire world is right now in a giant race, basically, to think about, okay, how can we capture as much market share as possible in this $10 trillion opportunity? And this is why this is so absolutely exciting, that we can build AI agents, that these AI agents suddenly have the potential to really deliver services end-to-end, which in the past only were able to be delivered by humans. And it's a massive market we are talking about. And obviously, I probably don't have to tell you, but it's absolutely clear that over the last 2-3 years, it is absolutely mind-blowing how fast the space of AI is evolving and how much better the models have become, right? The difference of just 2 years between ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo and what we see since 19th of December of last year, when ChatGPT announced the reasoning model 03, which we have now access to with 03 mini and 03 mini high, it is tremendous, right? And the rate at which everything is improving is absolutely mind-blowing. Sorry. And apart from the models getting better, we see now 3 big things, right? Everything became multi, which is really critical for what we do right now, because we have now a huge variety of models at our disposal, which is really great because you can build many different use cases, because you have access to so many models which are large and small, fast and slow, cheap and expensive, self-hosted or in the cloud. Depending on what you want to do, many options. Also multimodality, I mean, it's still not a year over since we have multimodality and the possibility that these models can also basically process images, process video, which is opening up so much more real-world use cases for AI agents because of the multimodality. But the biggest breakthrough, which is basically fueling what is happening right now, is that we discovered how powerful it is if multiple agents start to work together. And to understand this, let's take a deeper look of what this means. So when we talk about agents, I really try to explain it in a really simple manner. We are really talking about software, right? These are software applications which normally are run in the cloud or on-premise on a server, so to say. And they have at least 3 components, right? The software has basically a model in the center. The model is giving the agent the reasoning capabilities, the capability to solve tasks autonomously, the capability to plan, and basically it's giving the agents intelligence, if you want. An agent then always has a prompt, and the prompt is basically defining the role of the agent. Who is this agent? What is the objective of this agent? And maybe also giving the agent basically instructions of how to solve a task if you want. And last but not least, and this is one of the most important things, agents have access to tools. When I read this the first time, I was like, what does it mean, right? How can an agent, a software application, suddenly have access to tools? But you can imagine that everything which has an API, any database, any software application these days has an API which you can access. And large language models are really good in basically using these APIs through function calling, and also they're really good in learning really quickly of how to use an API and to do something with it, right? And this is really important for agents because suddenly they can tap into data sources which are super relevant for them, which are important to have access to, and they can really do something because they can take action through these APIs. And over the last weeks, I mean, there's a lot of change happening again in the tool space because suddenly we are looking into things like Agent Operator from OpenAI and many other also open source initiatives to give agents the ability to use a browser, right? And that is really mind-blowing because if an agent can use a browser, it can basically do anything, right? Because these days, because of what has happened over the last 14 years, basically, we can do anything in a browser. And it really, the agent development has guided us from thinking that there might be one AI to rule them all, which can do anything, to an approach where we realize, okay, it's much more effective and efficient to have highly specialized agents, in this case, a research specialist, who only uses a model good for research and who only has access to tools who are good in research. And then you can really build really specialized agents who are really good in one single task. For example, checking prices, helping with content marketing, or also doing transactional stuff where they maybe book a test drive, do an appointment for you to see a certain person whatsoever. And this is all basically coming from the fundamental research which has been published over the last 18 months around agentic workflows, right? And Andrew Ng, which probably most of you know, plays a key role in this, has talked about this and published about this a lot. This is roughly a quote he said in one of those famous videos he did when he presented those findings from agentic workflows in a session at Sequoia Capital, where he outlined how powerful collaboration of multiple agents is, because he showcased back then, this is already a year ago, that by using a much cheaper model a year ago like GPT 3.5 Turbo in collaboration of multiple agents to solve the same problem as a more advanced model like GPT-4, which tries to solve a problem at a one shot itself, that this can be beaten easily. And the key findings from agentic workflows are these 4 techniques. I always like to compare it, if you meet me at the coffee machine in the office, right? And if you ask me on the spot, hey Sebastian, can you please explain to me how a large language model works? I would give you the best possible answer I have in that moment at the coffee machine, which come into my head. And if you ask a normal GPT model just one prompt, even if it's a really sophisticated prompt, you will get the large language model's coffee machine answer. It is a spontaneous answer, even if this spontaneous answer is always better than my answer, but it's just the first answer. And what we learned is that if we ask a model to plan of how to get a certain task done and then follow this plan, the results get much better. That's like not asking me as a coffee maker, but saying to me, hey Sebastian, let's meet in 2 weeks, we have 1 hour, I want you to explain me how large language models work. And then I really think about it, I plan of how I give you the best possible answer, I come prepared with a much better plan, and my answer in this hour of meeting, which I had the chance to prepare, will be way better than my spontaneous answer. And the same is true with language models. If they plan ahead, and if they then follow the plan, they will achieve way greater results. The same is also true for self-critique. So if you ask a model to criticize itself, or if you ask agents to criticize each other, if you apply self-reflection, they will improve their answer dramatically. Using tools is a no-brainer, right? Tools allow them to have access to more data, which makes their response and their quality much better. And last but not least, what we learned is basically that having teamwork in place, where specialized agents work together and talk to each other, this is also revealing way better results. And you can also do much more by this than if you would have just one prompt, no matter how good the prompt is, at one language model. And this is what is fueling everything which is happening right now. And I always have a fictive example which people can easily follow of how this multi-agent collaboration could work. So imagine the Lufthansa, right? Our famous airline in Germany. Imagine someone is booking a flight with Lufthansa from Berlin to Tokyo. And our ambition is now that for this one person who booked the flight to Tokyo, we want to send a highly personalized email. With conventional methods, this would be highly difficult and very expensive because you would have to pre-produce content in tiny atomic assets for all these different travel destinations all around the world Lufthansa is flying to. You would have to keep this content up to date because it's constantly changing. It's also seasonal of what might be interesting and what is really relevant. And then you have to anticipate all these different segments of people who might be traveling to really send this highly personalized message of what the person traveling here to Tokyo should do with their time. And then to execute something like this, you would have to manually rule-based, segment-based, set everything up in marketing technologies. And this is a nightmare. This is way too complex. It's way too much effort. And it would never pay off to invest so much money in doing this so that just this one person gets a highly personalized message so that he feels like, oh, this is super relevant. I like to read it and I have a good experience flying with this airline. But with agents, what we can do now is to set together a team of agents, like you see here on the right-hand side. This is a team of agents we put together. They all have really specific tasks, and they collaborate now to send this email. And let's start with the customer data expert agent here in the bottom left. Imagine you as a human, you just see booking data from flights, right? If I show you a booking where you see, oh, there's a person flying from Wednesday to Friday for just 2 nights, business class to Tokyo for the 6th time this year, right? You would extrapolate from this, okay, quite likely a business traveler, quite likely higher income, quite likely this person knows their way around in Tokyo. And you would think of very different content you would have to write this person to spend time useful in Tokyo than if you would see a booking where someone is traveling with 3 children for 14 days, economy class, the first time to Tokyo, right? Completely different context. We as humans would come to conclusions of what might be interesting for this kind of travel group compared to the business traveler. And agents come to the same conclusions. Language models are really good enough to have the same interpretations, and they then just share this information with, for example, the travel destination research agent. And this travel destination research agent then says, all right, so when I know this is a business traveler with little time and knows their way around Tokyo, I will try to dig up something really interesting, right? A new restaurant which has been opening, and maybe a nice concert which is happening, some new shops which are available right now, whatever it might be, right? It will do a completely different search for different things compared to trying to make this family vacation a good experience for the family with their 3 children. And if you have never seen this, how this is working, it's really a little bit mind-blowing because you have to imagine this is really working really similar, like a WhatsApp group chat between these specialized agents, right? These agents, they think out loud, they reason loudly, they communicate to the others in natural language, so that through this natural language collaboration, they achieve in the end the task of not just writing this highly personalized email, but also to basically do quality checks and to make sure that this is really on point, that there's no hallucination, and that this sounds really like an email which would be coming from a company like Lufthansa. And that is great, right? So there's so many opportunities to do now stuff end-to-end, and marketing personalization is obviously just a really narrow use case, which I'm quite familiar with because of my background. But whatever you want to do with agents, there's no limit. The sky is the limit here. And the idea for Masumi was really born a year ago from another idea which comes from this. And this other idea is to say, okay, we're heading into a world where we will have billions of agents, right? And these billions of agents, they will actually be built not all by Google, Microsoft, ChatGPT, Apple, and whatsoever. No, even if they develop the core technology, they will be developed by brands, right? Companies will develop now agents, and these companies will develop agents to facilitate the collaboration between companies with consumers, to help their employees to get their work done, to deliver a better customer experience to their consumers. All of these things will happen. And when you think this further, you could come to the conclusion, and this is still a little bit, it sounds like the future, but I think this future is not far away anymore. We will get to the point that we will just talk to Siri, we will just talk to Google, to Alexa, to whatever it might be, what is our favorite voice assistants which we carry around with us, and we will voice a really complex problem, right? And a complex problem, for example, is to ask to book a complete Christmas shopping trip for me, my wife, to New York, right? Where I say which class I want to fly, and that I want to stay in Soho in a nice hotel, and then I need airport transportation, and I give it a budget. And when we voice these complex problems, it will never be the case that Siri or Apple solves this alone. But we know now we are heading into a future where now in the background, agents from these companies who can provide a solution, they will collaborate on getting this solution proposal done. So an agent from Lufthansa is talking to an agent of Marriott Hotel, maybe talking to agents of Uber, talking to agents of Booking.com, whatever the constellation might be, but they will craft together a solution proposal. And I truly believe that this is true because only companies will have access to the required first-party data to really make this happen. Only companies have access to all these transactional systems you need to have access to solve these complex problems. And most importantly, only companies have a really high incentive to put in all the effort when it comes to quality assurance to make sure that nothing goes wrong. And that is really the key. If you understand that it is highly likely that we are moving into this future with billions of agents by companies collaborating, you realize that we suddenly run into many different problems which have to be solved. And this is where the idea for Masumi and the entire Zumi ecosystem is starting. Because you have now these 6 challenges. When you talk to an agent or when 2 agents talk to each other, how do they know that they truly are the agents who they claim to be? How can you make sure that the agent from Lufthansa is really the agent from Lufthansa, right? So there is an identity problem suddenly floating around for agents. When an agent claims that it can book a hotel room for you, it claims that it has certain capabilities. How do you know? How can you certify? How can you prove that an agent can truly do what it claims to do and that this is not just a hallucination, that it tries to do something which it actually isn't capable of? There you have now the problem of how to go about having verifiable credentials for agents. And then one of the most obvious challenges is how do they find each other, right? How do you solve discoverability for this? If I talk to Siri, how is Siri connecting with the right agents? And how do these start to communicate with each other? There's a whole discovery problem which has to be solved for the agentic economy to become a reality. And then, really important, you have to solve for accountability, right? So you don't want to stand in Soho at the reception of your hotel and you say, hey, I want to check in, my name is Sebastian Küpers, and then the guy at the reception says, Mr. Küpers, I'm really sorry, but I have no booking for you. You don't want to be the person who then says, yeah, but Siri told me. You want to have more proof than this, right, that this really happened. So we have to hold agents accountable for what they say and what they claim, what they do for us. And therefore accountability and really tracking what they do or what they claim to do and having a mechanism in place that we can grab them and say, hey, you really did this in this session and you said this is really important. And then agents are not cheap, right? We are replacing here really expensive human labor with less expensive compute in essence, but the compute is still significant, right? The cost of running really good agents, you need compute, you need data, you need to have the models. And these are all really expensive costs. So it's absolutely clear that everyone who is developing services with agents, they have to monetize them. So this is the first idea where you think about money suddenly. And the last one is obviously they need to also transact not just with each other, but also on the behalf of humans. So they need to have the ability to move money around, right? And the whole idea for Masumi started with these 6 challenges. And I realized that I said, okay, the last 10 years, blockchain has basically been solving all 6 challenges. The funny thing is that maybe blockchain didn't have the right target audience in mind, right? You could joke now that blockchain was trying to build all of these solutions for humans, but maybe the better target group are actually agents. And because we have decentralized identifiers, right? We have the whole concept of self-sovereign identity backed up really by blockchain technology. We have a way to build completely decentralized registries. We have ways to really implement on blockchain technology privacy preserving mechanisms in order to do something like decision logging. We have smart contracts to facilitate payments, and obviously we have stable coins and crypto and everything in order to move value around, right? All the ingredients are there, and agents just have to get the capability to benefit from it. And I personally truly believe that AI agents will be the killer app blockchain absolutely has been waiting for. I really think that, it's already there, right? We are already realizing it. It's super exciting. It's happening basically as we speak, but we will see a tremendous uptick of transaction volume on a lot of blockchains, not just Cardano, because agents are suddenly driving lots of traffic because they can leverage this technology so greatly. And we thought, right, so let's try to build it, right? Someone will build it. So it's better us than someone else, right? And we want to build this, obviously, in a way which is really in line with things which are important to Cardano. And we want to unlock truly the agentic economy also to drive enterprise adoption at scale from blockchain, because enterprises will be the large majority of builders of agents. It will be really driven heavily by an economic need for enterprises to become more efficient, to increase productivity, to provide better experiences. They have massive incentives to build agents and to leverage them. And therefore, it's really important to cater for this target audience of enterprise clients because they have to buy it, right? They have to buy into the idea that not only they need all these capabilities from identity to doing transactions, but they also need to buy into the idea that blockchain is the best foundational layer to build this trust layer and this financial infrastructure you need for this. So why Masumi, right? Where does this name come from? Zumi is actually the Japanese word that means ink. Specifically this black ink which is used in Japanese calligraphy. And we think obviously also of a token, even there is no token yet, but there will be a token for sure at some point, and it will be the Zumi token. So our metaphor is a little bit that we want to give agents the ink to write, right? Zumi should be at the center of this agentic economy. It should be fueling it. And you can imagine that Zumi is something really similar like ink. And what we do now is we have 3 solutions which we talk about. Masumi is just the first one out of 3. And they're all combined with this word Zumi. So Masumi, which is the first thing we do right now. Ma, you can basically read as we write it as a word for clarity or transparency. So it's basically creating the trust transparency layer for the Zumi ecosystem to exist. And the 4 problems we are solving first with Masumi, of what you see already and what we have pitched to Catalyst and many other occasions, is that we want to allow AI agents to interact with each other in an absolutely permissionless and absolutely trustless ecosystem, offering their services on a global marketplace. So Masumi gives agents identities. Masumi implements a logging mechanism to hold agents accountable by or while we preserve privacy. Masumi is allowing payments to happen and transactions to happen, And Masumi is basically also solving the discoverability issue. So how can agents find each other? So let me dive a little bit deeper into what we have been building. So we think always of agentic services. So someone can build a service and launch it on the Masumi network. And Masumi in itself is completely agnostic when it comes to how you build your agentic service. Crew AI is just one of many really popular frameworks out there which people use right now to build multi-agent collaboration applications. And there are others like Langra, for example, like AutoGen from Microsoft, and many, many more. But for us, it is not important how you implement your service. We started to work a lot with Crew AI ourselves, and you can also see in our documentation, it has lots of connections to Crew AI, but it is not exclusively for Crew AI. And we always think of an agentic service that it has an input, so someone tells someone the service, the input parameters, and then the agents do something and they produce an output. Really simple. Input, output. You have heard this before. And what we have been building is the Masumi node. And the Masumi node has a purpose that it can run alongside an existing Crew AI application. So you can run your node in parallel to your Crew AI application. And it makes it really easy for developers who have also little to zero background on blockchain to give these three features to their agentic service. So identity, accountability, and payments. It's really key, and you will see it later when Patrick does the demos, that it becomes really easy to connect an existing Crew AI applications with the Masumi node to get these features. And what you then can do is you can do agent-to-agent payments and also agent-to-agent collaboration scenarios. I truly believe that we're heading into a world where you have agents who can do one thing extremely well, and that for more complex solutions, we will chain together agentic services from different providers, and they will use the Masumi network in order to collaborate. So as a simple example, imagine there's someone who has built a really great market research agent with Crew AI, but he is subcontracting parts of the analysis this person needs to do to a highly specialized industry analysis solution, which someone else has been building in LangChain. And even this, again, is maybe subcontracting specialized market data where there's an agent who's just focusing on digging up really interesting market data, and maybe again the solution has been built in another framework. But in this case, what Masumi is doing is it's giving all these agentic services identity. It's giving all these agentic services the ability to send money to the other, so they pay each other for what they do, and they only get through with the payment if they send the output together with a hash which is locked on the blockchain to verify their results. And this is the interesting thing, that you can really unlock this agentic economy with Masumi, where agents do specialized tasks and suddenly work together. And identity is a key part of the solution. This is really just showcasing on a top level of how important it is and how we envision this to work. It will all be centered around DIDs and the related technologies, so that a company who is creating agents has a decentralized identifier, and that then the agentic services which they launch on the Masumi network are connected to this company identifier and have their own identifiers. And then the company who is building stuff, they can be verifiable through a connected KYC, KYB process. They can also maybe provide verifiable credentials about certifications they have or AI standards they do. They maybe want to be certified as an official Masumi partner. And the agents, again, they can have attached to their decentralized identities verifiable credentials so that they can prove that they are GDPR compliant, that they have a certain certificate, that they pass a test to not be biased under our Western values, or they might have a certificate that they have actually the ability to tap into certain premium data sources. So this is a really interesting part. It is not launching today, to be honest. It is not part of our initial rollout, but it will come really soon as we progress with the rollout and the roadmap of the Masumi network. And then the Masumi node, if you see it later from Patrick explained, it is facilitating that what is happening in the agentic space built in Crew AI can easily leverage all the capabilities of the Cardano blockchain. And we have splitted this into two different services. The node really consists of a payment service and a registry service. The payment service is managing wallets for the agentic service and is really creating a really well thought through architecture, which will Patrick explain later, to allow agents to do payments in a really secure way where we have split up the different activities onto different wallets so that everything is as safe as possible. And the registry service is more an information service. It has nothing to do with payments. It has much more to do with discovering all these other agentic services and to know how to collaborate with them. So that is Masumi, and you can go to the website, you can go to the technical documentation, etc. What you will get today is already a sneak preview on two more projects which are launching from us really soon, which go into the same direction. One is called Kodozumi. Kodo actually means code in Japanese. So, right, it's a code for these ink to work for agents. And what we try to solve with Kodozumi is to really help you to run your agentic services at scale in production. Because Crew AI, Langgraph, they're all not solving right now the problem of having them agnostically from the cloud provider been hosting and scaling to all the requests they are getting in a way that you have authentication and in a way that you have the ability to easily monitor them. So if you have already dabbled around with Crew AI and you're thinking now about putting this online and connecting it to Masumi to monetize it, you will stumble directly into this issue. Okay, how do I deploy this now? And when I deploy it, how do I manage all the different jobs which are incoming? And how do I manage that if there's a rush on my service, how do I scale up and don't lose track of what is happening? All of these problems have to be solved somehow, and we try to make it as easy as possible with Kodozumi, which will also be an open source framework which is coming from us on GitHub, to basically put your Crew AI application into the cloud, make it really scalable, directly connected to Masumi, and we are using underneath as one of the options the Ray cluster technology, which is also a really popular cluster technology right now, for example, also used by OpenAI and others to train models. And last but not least, we also have a third thing which is upcoming where you get a really short sneak preview of today, which is Zokozumi. Zoku actually means warehouse, because you have built your agents, you have deployed them with Kodozumi in a scalable way, you have them discoverable on Masumi, they have wallets, they can pay, they have identity, still there's no interface yet, right? And what we try to solve with Zokozumi is to provide a framework where people can build really easily marketplaces. Marketplaces where it's possible to simply pay with fiat, right? You can just pay with your credit card or pay by invoice, so you don't have to go through the hassle of basically setting up your own blockchain wallet and figuring out how all of this is working. Zokozumi will give you an interface which makes it really easy to work with agents, and we will make it really easy for agentic service developers to have great user experiences. And Zokozumi will also later account for how can users provide custom knowledge to your agentic service, and how can you build the human in the loop function. So Zokozumi is obviously the key puzzle piece in the end, because only through Zokozumi marketplaces will exist where it becomes really easy to work with these agents and to buy these agents. So that's it in a nutshell. As I said earlier, we are doing all of this really with enterprises in mind. So we have a lot in mind of how can we comply with European regulation, right? So what do you have to do to be MiCA compliant? So the markets in crypto regulation, which is basically live since 1st of January of this year. We are thinking about the European Union AI Act. We are thinking about GDPR. We are thinking about all these requirements enterprises will have if they want to use agents running on the Masumi network. It's absolutely critical. It doesn't make sense to launch Masumi as a network where all of this gets ignored, and then the biggest target audience for this, enterprises who need now to build agents, to become more productive, to become more efficient, to build better experiences, can't use it because it's falling through the due diligence process of the legal department. And therefore, all of these things we have in mind, and we even go a step further. We are already working on lots of really relevant integrations. So integrations with, for example, Salesforce Agentforce, with Microsoft Copilot, also with this newly started NVIDIA stack, which we saw at the beginning of this year. It is really critical for us that it becomes super easy to connect with agents running on the Masumi network if you work primarily in Salesforce, if you work primarily with Microsoft technology. And we are already making great progress, and we already believe that this will be fueling a lot the adoption of Masumi, and also bring an entire new set of people basically to Cardano and to blockchain technology in general. And on the other hand, I said this many times already, we try to do everything possible to simplify the experience for developers who have very little background knowledge of blockchain. We're really targeting developers who build right now agent solutions, and they want to maybe monetize and make some money with their agents. They want to have all these benefits, and we want to make it as easy as possible for them. And also, we will stay completely framework agnostic. It doesn't really matter if you work with QAI, Langchain, PhiData. I think it's not called PhiData anymore. They changed the name, or any other framework. But you can connect anything in the end with Masumi. So that is basically my last chart. It gives you a rough overview. You build agentic services, right, so that you can deliver services which traditionally have been managed by humans in the area of research, insights, content design. You have the Masumi network, which is giving now all these agentic services identity, accountability, and transactions. And we are leveraging the Cardano blockchain in this case as a trust layer underneath, where we benefit a lot from the proof of stake mechanism, a lot from extended UTXO model, and from how all of this works from a smart contract language, etc. So that's it. That's our idea. We want to really unlock the agentic economy. Head over to our website and to our really extensive documentation by now if you want to learn more. You can find it all under masumi.network. We also have a blockchain explorer just for the Masumi network, which you can reach under explorer.masumi.network to see the activity, especially on pre-production right now. And we are also doing lots of hackathons this year. Just go onto the events tab on our Masumi website and you will find the latest information of where you can join a hackathon, which has really great money prizes if you build a really great use case, for example, with QAI, launch it on Masumi, and provide a useful agentic service to the Masumi network. So that's it. Thank you very much. I'm a little bit over time. I hope it's still good. If you want to have this presentation or the white paper, you can actually screenshot, scan the QR code. It should still be up and running to get these materials I've just shown you. So thank you very much, and I'm handing over to the next person.
And the next person is me. Thank you so much, Sebastian. I think that was a wonderful presentation, and I personally don't mind it being over time because I think we all just learned a lot, and it's always great to hear, from Sebastian himself the whole vision and the future and the roadmap of Masumi. So I hope you all learned much about what Masumi actually is. And also, of course, about what Kodozumi will be and about what Sokusumi will be, because they are really the next big pillars that we're working towards at the moment. And we're going to go over to the next point in the agenda pretty soon. But before I do that, and before I let Christian talk about our partnership strategy, let me just quickly talk about this hackathon that Sebastian mentioned. And actually, it's not only one hackathon. We do a lot of hackathons this year. So we do a bunch of in-person hackathons. But the one that I specifically want to talk about right now is actually our online hackathon, because we will be having very regular online hackathons running for 1 month each. and basically giving the developers and giving the participants really a chance to build something bigger and just experiment without any like really big time pressure as well. And we have started this first online hackathon actually on the 1st of March, so 3 days ago. Actually, for you, maybe 2 days ago. I'm in Japan, so I'm a little bit further ahead of most people. But yeah, basically, it started a few days ago. And as I said, it will be running for 1 month. There's also pretty large prizes that we're going to talk about in part 2 of the hackathon information. And basically, to summarize what this hackathon is all about, it's really about getting this whole hackathon series kicked off. And because of that, we decided to go with 2 themes for the hackathon. So we'll have one open track where really anyone can build any agent that they think is interesting. And you basically just build the agent, you deploy it on Masumi, on the pre-production network, and then you're eligible to participate. And the second hackathon track is a themed track. So that's this time really about Cardano, because we obviously have a large Cardano community already, which is the blockchain that we're using for Masumi. And we thought, okay, why not just start with our home turf? Why not just build some AI agents to make interacting with the Cardano blockchain easier, or I don't know, query data from the Cardano blockchain, or whatever you really can come up with. I think there's unlimited potential there. So those 2 tracks, are open. Anyone can participate. There can be teams from 1 to 5 people, and it's very easy. You can sign up at any point in the month. You simply go to the Masumi.network website and click on events, or even at the top, there's a little banner, which I'm going to show later, where it shows the online hackathon, and you just click on that, and then you simply sign up for the online hackathon. So it's very simple. And also, if you still need a team and you want to participate with a team, you can simply head over to the Masumi Discord. I know there's a bunch of teams of people that have found each other in this Discord already, so it's quite exciting. Someone can come in there with an idea and simply say, okay, I need a team who's also here, who wants to collaborate with me, and then they find each other and they form a team, which I think personally is really, really, really cool. And just shows in what kind of a world we live right now. You can form teams with strangers over the internet and build something amazing. I think that's pretty brilliant, actually. Okay, but now enough talking about the hackathon. I'm gonna give it over to Christian now and let him talk about a little bit about our strategy. So let me turn myself off and let's go.
Hello everyone, and thank you for being here today. My name is Christian and I'm one of the co-founders of Masumi. Before I stepped into the world of blockchain and AI, I worked in the movie industry. My work was all about bringing creative people together, helping them to collaborate to tell powerful stories. In many ways, that's exactly what drew me to Masumi, because Masumi is all about enabling intelligent collaboration, not between filmmakers, but between AI agents and the organizations that rely on them. And today I want to show you why partnering with Masumi could be a real opportunity for your agency, your university, or your company. So let's jump right into it. If you own or lead an agency, whether it's in research, marketing, or consulting, you already know how much AI is changing your industry. With Masumi, you can turn AI into more than just a tool you use internally. With Masumi, AI becomes a service you can offer directly to your clients with built-in payments and transparent tracking via blockchain technology. That means your agency can build entirely new revenue streams by offering AI-driven insights, content, or automation directly through the Masumi network. And even more than that, your agency can connect multiple AI agents into collaborative workflows, where one agent analyzes data, another generates creative assets, and another manages performance reporting. Everything is locked on chain, so you and your clients can trust the process and the outcome. For your agency, Masumi is not just a technology upgrade, it's a chance to rethink how you package, deliver, and monetize AI services. Second example, if you're a university leader, whether you're a dean, a head of research, or responsible for innovation, Masumi can help your university become a leader in collaborative AI-powered research. Modern research is rarely done in isolation. Teams from different departments, sometimes even different institutions, need to work together. Masumi makes that possible by allowing AI agents from different teams to collaborate securely, even if those teams don't fully know each other at first. That's because every decision made by every agent is logged transparently on chain, creating a shared record that makes the research process credible, auditable, and easy to verify. And for students, Masumi opens up even more exciting opportunities. Students can build and deploy their own AI agents, connecting them to real research projects and even to industry partners. This is hands-on real-world learning, preparing your students for the AI-powered economy they will graduate into. Third example, if you're a C-level executive at a company, no matter what kind of area you're working in, Masumi gives your company a way to add AI transparency, trust, and security directly into your products. With Masumi's agent identity system, every AI agent in your platform can be verified and authenticated so customers always know exactly who or what they are interacting with. On top of that, Masumi's decision locking creates an auditable, permanent record of every major action taken by these agents. This is a huge advantage if your company serves regulated industries, enterprise clients, or any customer base that needs trust and explainability built into the product. And the best part, Masumi is designed to integrate easily with existing tools and frameworks. That means your tech team can add these capabilities without rebuilding everything from scratch. So, whether you lead an agency, a university, or a company somewhere on this beautiful planet, Masumi offers you more than just technology. It offers you a partnership opportunity to innovate, create value, and stay ahead in an AI-driven future. When I moved from the film industry into blockchain and AI, I was looking for technologies that bring people and systems together in new ways. That's exactly what I found in Masumi, and that's why I believe partnering with Masumi could be valuable for your organization too. Since many of you are watching this as a live stream, I love to keep the conversation going. So if you're curious about how Masumi can fit into your business, your research, or your technology stack, ping me directly via email at christian@masumi.network. I'm happy to explore ideas together. Thank you so much for your time, and I look
Okay, it's me again. Thank you so much, Christian, for this overview. We, as Christian said, just to recap there a little bit, we're really focusing on partnerships with agencies. We're really focusing on partnerships with enterprises. Be it smaller companies, but also larger companies. We are really focusing to just bring the world into the future by having everyone utilize AI agents and really connect those AI agents with each other. Before I go into, the maybe from my perspective, maybe the most interesting part of the presentation, the technical part. Let me talk one last time about the online hackathon that is currently running. As mentioned just before Christian's presentation, the hackathon is running now for 1 month, so anyone can sign up at any point in the month. And by signing up, you can simply say, okay, I want to build my own AI agent, and by doing so, you have a chance of winning a pretty hefty prize, actually, because we have 2 tracks that you can apply for. One of them is a general track, so anyone can apply. Anyone can build whatever kind of agent you want to build and just deploy it on Masumi. And there's a total prize pool for this track of $5,000. So $3,000 for the first place, $2,000 for the $1,500 for the second place, and $500 for the third place. And the same thing goes for the other track, which is really focused on the Cardano ecosystem. So building AI agents that in some way or shape or form interact with the Cardano ecosystem. So yeah, these two tracks are available. You can sign up now. Just go to masumi.network and you'll find very big banner at the top to sign up, and also go join the Masumi Discord, because there's a lot of people there that are participating in the hackathon and are also, trying to form teams and work together. And I think it's a really, really great opportunity for anyone, really, also if you're not that technical, to learn more about AI agents, and also just get your first AI agent live. I think this is really the future, and it's not that complicated to build an agent. So I think any one of you should really sign up. I see a lot of you are actually active in the chat, so that's amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I see we have over 1,000 viewers now, which is absolutely amazing. Super happy about that. And now I'm gonna jump over to the technical part of this presentation. So let me go in here, and then I'm going to try to share my screen. As you can tell, this is all live, while the other two presentations were pre-recorded. This here is all live, and you can now see what it looks like behind the scenes. But I'm gonna move away from here, and I'm gonna move into my other browser tab. And I have a bunch of stuff prepared, but I'm gonna do this pretty much on the go and on the fly, so bear with me if things don't work out. This is a live demo, essentially. And I'll try to really cover, as much of the Masumi technology as necessary, and try to really give you an overview over what we've been building. So before we dive into any sort of code or so, let's take a step back and let's really think about what Masumi actually is, right? Masumi is basically, we call it a financial network for AI agents. So it's really just a network that you can connect your AI agent to and basically expose it to the world out there. And you can help your agent interact with other agents. You can help make your agent, pay other agents or be paid by other agents. And by creating that, we are basically creating this like AI agent economy, where there will be billions of agents which all interact with each other and with us humans and pay each other, and we pay them, and sometimes maybe they pay us humans. Who knows what the future will hold. But this sounds obviously like a very grand vision, and that's where we are moving towards, though. And if you really think about it, this is actually quite an empowering system for anyone, because it will change the whole way we work and interact with basically every single service in the world. Because as Sebastian very wisely said, it's not so much about software as a service anymore. It's really about service as software. Okay, but enough of that. Let's take a look at what we as Masumi actually have as core components. So one really important aspect and one really important concept that we have defined as Masumi, which you will need to understand, is this concept of an agentic service. So in Masumi, we call basically every agent an agentic service. So we defined it here, and you can see it in this little chart. So we basically defined it by being an AI agent system, which could be one agent, or it could be 10 agents or 100 agents. It doesn't really matter, but it's one agent system here in the middle, which has a very clearly defined input and a very clearly defined output. And this agentic service, we now connect with the Masumi network. So here you see the Masumi logo. So that's basically a representation of the Masumi network. And by connecting this agentic service to the Masumi network, we give it a few properties that it previously didn't have. So we give it, for example, the property of having identity and accountability, and of course payments, and also discovery, right? So that it can find other agentic services. So we are basically not calling anything an agent, or we don't call it a multi-agent system, but we call it an agentic service, because it could be, 1 to unlimited agents that are part of one agentic service. And basically now, as I mentioned, it's really important to think about this connection between this agentic service and the Masumi network, because only by basically taking your agentic service and connecting it to the Masumi network, you will get those properties that we are all about. And one thing here to notice is you will see this Crew AI logo a lot, because that's currently the most used multi-agent platform in the world. I have the Crew AI website open here. And And CrewAI is a framework that allows you to very easily build multi-agent systems. So it's really about, okay, how can I build different agents that collaborate with each other and run locally on my machine or my server, and I basically can easily just deploy it. And since it's the most popular and we use it internally a lot as well, we decided, okay, to make it a little bit easier to understand, to put CrewAI logos a lot in the documentation. But really, it's very framework agnostic. So CrewAI works, but also LangGraph works, also AutoGen from Microsoft works, and there's many other frameworks out there that can be used to build those agentic services or multi-agent services, and so on. So Masumi is not any sort of replacement for any of them, but you can think about Masumi as being a service that you run in parallel with your agents. So now this might sound a little bit abstract right now, and I'm gonna get into more details in a bit. But there's one more thing really that you have to understand. And there's, as you can see, this is the Masumi Docs website, and there's many different points here that you can go through if you really want to know everything in much detail. But I think the really important part here is to understand the concept of smart contracts. Because in the end, what we are doing is we are using the blockchain as this layer in the middle, like this trust layer between all the agents, where the agents can do payments on the blockchain, and they can find each other on the blockchain, and they can do the decision logging on the blockchain. So we use the blockchain as this existing infrastructure that agents can use. And in order for those agents to be able to use the blockchain, what we've done is we've basically written multiple smart contracts that those agents can interact with. And those smart contracts are basically, it's basically code on the blockchain that you can interact with, and that is, very visible and very public and very, I would say, small in scope. And it's just there to guarantee a few things. So for example, it guarantees that if you do a payment to a certain other agent, that the money actually arises at the other agent's destination or wallet in that case. And it also guarantees that the other agent can only get the payment if they have actually done the work, if they have actually run and produced an output, right? So this is basically one abstraction layer on top of the blockchain, and it's making the blockchain for us usable. But obviously, this is all very technical, and there's a lot of concepts here to understand, like wallets, and like what is a blockchain in general, I guess, and also stable coins and tokens and all this kind of stuff. And this is mostly not that important for the average AI agent developer, because if you realistically think about it, if you are developing AI agents, you might not be a blockchain expert. And the goal is really that in the future, anyone can develop AI agents, right? It's already pretty simple, and there's many no-code tools out there that you can use to develop AI agents. And it's going to get even simpler in the future. So we want to really take away this complexity, and we want to hide all this complexity of interacting with blockchains away from the average developer and the average agent developer, basically. So what we've done to do that is we've built a Masumi node, and we said, okay, we are going to build this Masumi node, and this Masumi node is basically the only thing that a normal AI agent developer has to run and interact with in order to use the whole Masumi network and to interact with the blockchain and interact with the smart contracts that I was showing, and so on. So as you can see here in this little image, basically the idea would be to run your agentic service, so your multi-agent service or your single agent service, your CrewAI service or LangGraph service or whatever it might be, to basically take that and run it in parallel with the Masumi node. And by doing that, you are basically just giving your agentic service that you have anyways superpowers, because now you are adding all these amazing properties to it. You are adding decision logging to it. You are adding discoverability to it. You are making it available for others to purchase, right? So you can easily monetize it. So it's a really, I would say, a no-brainer to say, okay, if I'm running some AI agents, no matter what they are doing, if I already have them, I should just download the Masumi node and basically run it in parallel, connected with each other, and then basically I gain all these amazing features. So let me check for 1 second if the stream is working. I think everything should be fine. Yes, it seems to be fine. Brilliant. So now let's take a closer look at this Masumi node. What is it actually? As you can see here already, it consists of 2 different services, payment service and registry service. And all of this is located in our Masumi Network GitHub repository, right? So if you go to GitHub and you just type in Masumi Network, you will land on this Masumi Network organization. And you will see there's a lot of different repositories in here. So we have on the Masumi core, we have a few repositories and we have a few examples, and Sokusumi will be here and many others, right? And here you can see already the 2 top repositories are the Masumi registry service and the Masumi payment service. And those are the 2 services that are basically making up the Masumi node, right? So if you want to run the Masumi node, you would be installing either one of those 2 services or both of them, depending on what you exactly need. And to give you maybe a little bit of info about what the difference between the 2 services are, the registry service is basically just for querying data. So this is something you would be running if you just want to get a bunch of information about all the different agents and agentic services that have been registered on Masumi and are publicly available, but it cannot actively do something. It's just for querying data. And the payment service on the other side is really for interacting with the Masumi network. So this is where the critical stuff is sitting, right? This is where the wallets are. This is where the money is flowing. This is where you can actually hire other agentic services, or where you can expose your own agentic services to the Masumi network. So this is the bigger and the more critical, I would say, of the 2 services. And essentially, it's quite straightforward to install one of those services, right? You just go in here, you click on the GitHub repository, and then we have a bunch of steps here that you can follow, like cloning this repository, installing the dependencies, checking out the latest version. You have to set a bunch of environment variables and so on. But it's very clearly explained here, like it's step by step, and I think you shouldn't really run into issues. Or if you do, we have a Discord server where you can always reach us and you can ask and basically help us make it even easier to understand. And then once you have installed it and you have configured everything, then you can simply start it either with Docker, or you can start it manually by using just regular npm run build and npm start commands, and then it will be running on your local machine. And I can actually show you this because I've gone through all of those steps many times before. And I have a terminal here, and I have pre-installed and pre-configured a Masumi node. And I'll just show you what it looks like. So basically, if I type in npm run build and npm start, right now it will start the Masumi node. And you can see, okay, it does a bunch of stuff. It gives me some information about, I don't know, my database, Prisma, and so on. And then really here is where the interesting stuff is happening. Now it's initializing the services, and it's basically finding payment sources, and it's initializing the database, and it's really in the background just querying data from the blockchain. It's just saying, okay, has there been any new payments made, or has there been any new agents that have been registered, or is there something I need to do? Like, should I send out a transaction now? And this is all happening in the background, and you really don't have to do anything else here anymore. This is just running now, and you can simply interact with it via a REST API, which I'm going to show you in a second. And obviously, I'm running this on my local machine right now, but this could also be very easily deployed on any hosting service, be it DigitalOcean or AWS or Azure. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, for demo purposes, I'm just showing it to you on my local machine, of course. So what this has done now that I've started this service, is it has exposed an API. So if I go into this page, I already have it open. I'm going to reload to show you that this is actually here live on my local host 3001/docs, you can see, okay, there's an API now. And there's a lot of different endpoints here. And all of these endpoints are basically the way you would interact with this Masumi node. So there's a few different things here, like you can basically generate new API keys, which is interesting if multiple people are handling or working with your Masumi node, and you can look at wallets that are in there and so on. But the really interesting thing are these three here, like payment, purchase, and registry. And registry, let's start with this one. Registry is really about making your agent available on the Masumi network. So it's really about basically just saying, I want to just offer my agent or my agentic service, as we call it, on the Masumi network. So if you simply would call this post endpoint here, it would require you for a little bit of information, like the name and the description and all this kind of stuff, what your agentic service actually does. And then you would be able to simply basically register in the Masumi network, and then others would find you because you are now public, and then they would be able to purchase from you. And maybe we're gonna show that in a second. And then payment and purchase are then once you have been registered. Payment is basically for accepting payments. So you say, okay, I am now available on this network. I want to really accept payments, and I want to see other agents pay me for my work. And purchase would be if you want to basically like purchase other agentic services. So if in your Crew AI flow, for example, you want to include an agent which is hosted by a different company and which you found on the Masumi network, then you can tell your crew to simply purchase that agent via this endpoint. And there's still a lot of things in here. There's still a lot of like variables, and this is really like quite a complex interaction, but it's quite well explained if you just go into the documentation here. So we have the payment service API, and you can run through this, and there's like all sorts of different explanations on how to use it, which endpoint does, and so on. But what we've also done is we've basically built a wrapper around this payment service API to make it even easier to use, because we see, okay, we don't want to have anyone try to figure this out, and it takes a while. So we really made it as simple as possible for normal Crew AI or LangGraph or AutoGen developers, and also newbies to the space of agentic services to integrate Masumi, right? And I'm gonna show you this now. So one thing that we have built here, let me go back to GitHub. One repository that we have in here is actually our pip package. So as you can see here, it's pip Masumi Crew AI. And for the Python developers under you, pip is really well known, of course, because it's Python's package manager. And it basically just means that you can easily install this like Crew AI package now into your regular Python project. And you just install it by typing in pip install Masumi Crew AI. This is actually a mistake. It's not pip Masumi Crew AI. I will fix this later. And there's a bit of a quick start tutorial here, so you can take a look at that. But we're going to skip that for now, because I'm actually going to show you an agent in a second where you can simply see how it's been implemented from the get-go. And we will actually try it out. So yeah, you already saw me just a second ago. I was showing you that, or you were probably seeing that I was in this Crew AI selling tutorial, because that is actually a public repository that I created just as an example, as like a reference for anyone who wants to use Masumi. You can simply just clone this, and it's very simple. It's very straightforward, I hope. And you can simply check it out and basically integrate your own crew. And I have it actually running here locally. So I'm gonna show you this, but this is the exact same as it would be if you simply clone it. And as you can see, here in my in my cursor environment, it's a regular Python project, and it only has 2 files. So it has a main file and it has a crew definition file. And if we first go into the crew definition, that's probably the more agentic part of it. Because in the crew definition, if you've been working with Crew AI, you will be very familiar with this. It's just a regular Crew AI setup. So you see, okay, there's a bunch of researchers, writers. So there's a bunch of agents that I define, and they are very simple. Like they just have a very, very short goal and a very short backstory. And I haven't really, put much in there. It could be much more much more detail, but I just try to keep it as clear and as easy as possible. So there are 2 agents in here, and there are 2 tasks, 1 task for each agent. So there's 1 task for the researcher, which is the research certain topic task, and there's a task for the writer agent, which is write a summary about the topic. And if you run this crew, basically, you would simply give it an input, which is this text field here. And it could be any topic. It doesn't matter. It could be any topic. And then basically what would happen is the researcher basically just does some research on this topic and creates this research and finds this research and then gives this research to the next agent. And the next agent is then the writer agent. And the writer is then going to write a summary about, basically the research that has been done by the previous agents. So it's a very small crew. It's just 2 agents interacting with each other, and they simply do research, and then they write a summary about their research. So very, very straightforward. And this is literally everything that you need for setting up this crew. And if you want, you can simply clone this repository, and you can replace the researcher and the writer with your own agents, and you can add more agents, and you can give those agents some tools as well. This is really just a regular Crew AI setup, and nothing super special about it. So now we're getting to the more interesting part, to the actual Masumi part, because the question now is, how do we actually make this agent or this agentic crew, how do we make it available on the Masumi network, and how do we make it available in general via an API to people, outside who want to interact with this agent? If I just have it like this, there's no API exposed, there's nothing there, I can just run it myself, on my local machine. So what I've done here is I've basically created a file which follows the standards that we require for the Masumi network. So you will see there's a bunch of different endpoints now that we are exposing via Fast API. And these endpoints basically just allow you to do certain things. So for example, this first endpoint here is now for starting a job, right? And I'm going to skip this and go into more detail in a second, but just so you get an overview, the second endpoint here is it's actually not an endpoint. It's a fallback or a callback function for handling a payment. And then the third part is the status. So it's basically about checking the status of the job after we started it. Fourth endpoint, is the availability. So that's really just about the server. Is it running? So it just says, okay, I'm available and the server is running smoothly. And then the fifth one is about the input schema. So you also know what the start job endpoint is actually expecting. And before we go into all this code and into a little bit more detail, let me just clear that. Let me just actually start it, because I think it will be a little bit easier. As you can see, okay, we now started it, and it's just running via UVcorn and basically via Fast API, and it's running on my local machine, so on 0.0.0.0.8000. And if I go into the docs page, which has been automatically created now, you will see, okay, all these endpoints that I was just talking about, the start job, the status, the availability, and the input schema, they're all available here now. And I can basically go in and I can take a look, okay, what they expect from me. So start job just expects basically a string, which is, the input here that the agent needs. So if we go back into the code, that would basically be the string here that would be used for starting the research. Oops. And then the status would give me just needs the job ID, and then basically gives me the result of the current job or the status of the current job. And the availability, I mean, we already just looked at it. Availability just says, okay, the server is available and the server is running smoothly. And then the input schema, let's try that out as well. The input schema basically just tells me, okay, the only input I need for starting a job is basically I need a key of text, and it's a string that's being expected. And this could be, in other agents, could be a lot of different data that is expected to start this agent. But here, of course, it's very, very simple. So let me close those two. And now let's go through one by one, right? So what happens if I actually type in start a job? Let's go back into the code, and let's make this a little bit smaller. Let's go up here and take a look at this start job endpoint here. So what happens? Basically, a bunch of stuff happens. First, we generate a job ID, which is just a random job ID that we assign it. So we can store it, and we can basically save it somewhere, and we can always find it again. And then we set the agent identifier. And this is a very long string, as you can see. So this is just a string that I got back after registering the agent on the Masumi network, which I've already done. And if you can recall, if we go back here to the Masumi Swagger API, there's this post registry endpoint, and this is basically where I register my agent. And I only have to do this once, because I only have to register my agent once for it to be publicly available. And once I have registered it, I will be able to take a look at, or I will receive such an agent identifier. And this is basically the public identifier that others can find me by with, because it's what we use for identifying the agents. And then we are defining the amount of money that we want to get for running this agent. So this is 10 million Lovelace. So that basically means 10 ADA, which is the currency of the Cardano network. And it's actually test ADA because we are running on the test net here. And that's just the payment that we expect. And then what happens now is, because I've installed this pip package, which I was talking about, so I did pip install CrewAI Masumi, I can now interact with some classes from this pip package. So you see, okay, I have this class payment here. And if you scroll up, you will see, okay, we have this also imported from Masumi CrewAI.payment. We imported the class payment, and we imported amount. And basically what I'm doing is I'm giving this payment class all this information that I just configured, like the agent identifier and the amount and all this stuff. And I basically just give it to this class, and a bunch of stuff happens in the background that we don't really have to care about at the moment. And then all I have to do, if I want to accept the payment, is I have to call this function create payment request. So if you think about it again, someone calls this start job endpoint, and then what happens is we just create this new class or this new instance of class, and then in this class we call the function create payment request, and then the payment has been requested, and it returns me a bunch of information, which I basically can store. Like, for example, it creates a blockchain identifier, which I need, and like a bunch of other stuff. And then all I do is I return this information now to the user, so to the end user or the other agent or whoever was actually interacting with this agentic service. So let's try out what this actually looks like. I think that will be quite helpful. So let's say, okay, I want to do research about, I don't know, what will the future of AI look like, for example. And then I simply press on execute, and then it returns me exactly the information that I was specifying here. So it returns me a bunch of stuff, returns me a blockchain identifier, it returns me the job ID that we created earlier returns me a submit result time, unlock time, and a lot of things here really that are honestly not super relevant for you, but they are needed basically for making a purchase to this specific agent. So now, if I go back into our code and into the terminal here, you see, okay, there has been actually, let's scroll up a little bit, here. Yeah, so there has been an initialization of this payment instance for the agent that we defined on the pre-prod network, so not on the main network. And then it has created a new payment request, and the payment request basically created a bunch of information, and it created this payment ID, and that's really this like long string here. So if I just take a look at this is the payment ID, or the blockchain ID basically, which we need to interact with this agent. And now what it does is it's basically checking every 60 seconds in the background if this payment has already been done. And once the payment is being done, then we expect it to actually start the job. So now it's waiting to get paid, and then it's going to start the actual crew. So let's do that. Let's pay. Luckily, I have, oops, sorry. Let's fix that. So luckily, I still have my Masumi payment service node running, right? So I have all these different endpoints. And this is just one way of interacting with this, but I'm just going to do a very manual payment right now, and I'll show you exactly how it works. It's quite straightforward. We just go into this like payment, post-payment endpoint here, and I just copy and paste a bunch of stuff. So I will copy this blockchain identifier, and I will basically oh, sorry, not payment, of course, purchase. And I will just paste it here. And then I will copy the submit result time, and I will paste it here because it also expects a submit result time, and an unlock time, and an external dispute unlock time. And I'm not going to explain to you right now what all these times do. You can look that up in the documentation, and they are quite relevant, especially for like disputes. So, for example, if the agent doesn't actually do what you expect it to do, but that goes maybe a little bit out of scope, and I don't want to make this whole demo like too long. And then I'm gonna copy this identifier, and I'm gonna put it here, and that's it. And I think yeah, let's take the smart contract address out, and I think the price is still correct. Yes, 10 million, lovely, perfect. So now if I execute this, it should actually create a transaction, and tada, success. So success is great because success means that we have now paid this agent. So we now triggered a transaction, which will soon in a few minutes happen on chain, and then the agent here will see that it has happened, and then it will start this job. And that's really what it's all about, because now we can get paid for the work that our agentic service is doing, which is pretty brilliant actually. And yeah, and now we have to wait, and that's probably the boring part of this demo. So I'm just gonna show you a little bit more about what's actually going to happen after the payment has been received. So once the payment has been received, basically what happens is that this handle payment status function will be called as a callback, right? So basically we'll say, okay, now the payment has been received, and now we're going to start the job, and it sets the job status to running because now the job is of course running. And then at some point, once it's done, the job will be completed, and the result is available. And yeah, let's maybe take a look here in the Masumi node. We can also check the current status of this purchase. So let's just type in this. And as you can see, there's a lot of stuff in here because I'm using this Masumi node for a bit. So basically, all we have to do is we have to copy and paste this, or copy this, and then we just search for it. And are we in the right one? Get purchase. So yes, we see, okay, in here in this long list, there's actually a purchase that we have triggered with this ID. And as you can see, the on-chain state is already funds locked. So that means it already did a transaction on chain. So this means that basically now very soon it should start the job. It actually has found it. So it has found now that the payment completion request was successful, and it's now, oh, I'm already too slow here. Okay, it has already found that this payment has been done, and then basically it started this agentic workflow. So it started the research analyst and said, okay, research, what will the future of AI look like, right? And then the research analyst like did all his stuff, and he said, okay, the future of artificial intelligence is poised to transform, blah, 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 blah. So it got all this different information. And then the content summarizer took all this information and basically summarized it into a nicer result. And then the crew said, okay, now this job has been done, and we are not monitoring anymore because there are no more jobs currently waiting. So to recap, now an actual transaction on chain on the Cardano network has happened to our wallet, right, which is controlled by this by us basically. This has happened, and our crew has noticed that this payment has been happened, and our crew basically then said, okay, once the payment has happened, I'm gonna do my work, and it did, and it wrote this like research summary about AI agents, and then it did another transaction on chain to confirm that it has done the work and to really lock the result of what it has been doing as well on chain, and all this happened in the background. So it's a very easy way to expose my normal agent to be able to be paid, right? So I can just write an agent and I can simply just make it available for purchase. Okay, and now the last thing that we have to do really to also see the result is, we triggered this this job here, and now if I go into status, I can actually just take the job ID that I just copy and pasted, and I can check the status, and ta-da, here it actually gives me the whole status. So it gives me the whole summary, and it tells me a bunch of stuff like the description here and the expected output and like all the things that I really want from this agentic service. And yeah, and it worked. So that's it. I've been talking for a long time, and I think maybe I've lost a few of you on the way. We're always working on making this even easier, but just the last few thoughts before I stop and I go back to our little live stream. It's really simple now to basically take an agent and deploy it on Masumi, because all you have to do in the first step is cloning this repository, the Crew AI selling tutorial repository. And then all you have to do is go into the crew definition and basically change it to the crew that you want, change this text here, change the goal, change the backstory, and really define the crew that you want. And then install the Masumi node, set a few parameters, and run it. And voila, your agent is available on Masumi, and other people can find it, and other people can pay for it. And even better, other agents can find it, and other agents can pay for it. And then we really have this connection where multiple agents work with each other, they pay each other, and we create this agentic economy. Okay, so let's hope the stream is actually still running. Yeah, it seems to be still running. That's fantastic. Let me stop my screen sharing for a moment. Okay, here I am. I've been talking for a very long time, and I hope that some of you were able to follow me, and I hope that many of you will be looking into our documentation and into the Masumi network, and hopefully also participating in the hackathon, because as I said, there's a lot of money to be won here. We have $10,000 on the line for this month, and there's 2 tracks. So please participate. Please try building AI agents and deploying them on Masumi. It's really an amazing tool, in my opinion. It's not very humble of me, but I really think that this is the thing that will enable the agentic economy in the future. And yeah, and that's it for my presentation and also for this live stream. So thank you very much for watching. Almost 1 hour and 45 minutes. So yeah, thank you for your patience, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Bye bye.